Hello one, hello all. Welcome to the Casual Fan Podcast, the hardest working, most entertaining, and above all else, the most accurate sports gambling podcast. I am your host, Ben Holmes, and we're going to be looking at this upcoming 2021 MLB season. Today we're going to start looking at the AL Cy Young race. So today we'll focus on the top 15 candidates. DraftKings released the top 15 candidates. We're going to break them down. Who's most likely to win? I'm going to tell you who not to bet on, who you should maybe sprinkle a bit of action on, and also who is the best value for your hard-earned dough. Let's begin. First name that we can just wipe off completely is Chris Sale, coming in at plus 2,200. If he was in his prime, he'd be right up there with Garrett Cole as the best pitcher in the conference. But he's coming off a Tommy John surgery. There's reports of neck stiffness while he's trying to ramp up his activity. So there's just no way that the Red Sox aren't really going to be in the mix this year. There's no reason to rush him back. He's going to be great when he's back. He's going to be awesome. He's going to be electric. But for this upcoming season, there's no way he's going to finish as the best pitcher in the conference. Now another guy that we can just wipe off completely, Marco Gonzales of the Seattle Mariners. He's probably playing on the worst team in the conference. He has a super low ERA. Last year he did have the lowest base on ball per 9 ratio. He only walked 2.5% of the batters he faced, which was the best in the league. But he just doesn't have enough strikeout stuff, enough electric stuff. He did bring his K per 9 up to 8.27 last year, but that was in a shortened season. That probably would have regressed if the season was a little bit longer. Even if he maintains that strikeout rate, that's not by any means an elite strikeout rate. That's not even a strikeout per inning. So if he's gonna win, he's gonna have to have a kind of Rick Porcello-like season in 2016, where he won the Cy Young with a 7.69 K per 9, but I just don't see that happening, not with weapons that he's competing against in this conference. And like I've also mentioned, playing for a horrific team. Now it's gonna be my pleasure to knock out 2 back-to-back New York Yankees. So Luis Severino, he's electric, he's dominant, he's at plus 3,000, so you might be thinking, oh, he's a good young pitcher, hasn't realized his potential yet. Let's throw a few dollars on that player. Just don't do it, guys. He's coming back from Tommy John himself. He won't return till later in the year. He's not gonna have enough innings pitched when all is said and done to be there at the end. And then the second guy is his new teammate, Corey Kluber. Now he's a great pitcher. He has had some injury issues lately, but he has been durable before that. He's won the Cy Young Award twice, but like I mentioned, he's only pitched 26 innings in the last 2 seasons combined, and that's including the 1 inning he pitched last year. He's getting up there in age. Sure, he signed a new 1-year contract with the Yankees. He's going to want to prove himself, and hopefully he does. Hopefully he balls out, but he's not going to be the Corey Kluber of old this season. If he is, I would be shocked. Now, seeing as though we just got rid of back-to-back Yankees, let's go look at the Chicago White Sox and eliminate 2 of their starters. In 5th place of voting last year was Dallas Keuchel. He comes into this year at plus 2,200. He did have a great 1.98 ERA last season. He had a 3.98 xFIP though. That shows how unsustainable that 1.98 ERA was. In his Cy Young winning year, back in 2015 in his prime, he had an 8.38 K per 9. We just kind of talked about with Marco Gonzales, how that's good but not great. Well, he hasn't been even close to that since 2015. Last year, even when he did have that great ERA, he only had a 5.97 K per 9. It's unfathomable how he had the success he had with such a low strikeout rate. He's an excellent ground ball pitcher, always has been, and he really keeps the ball in the yard. He only gave up 2 home runs last year, and that was in his first 4 games. So in the last 7 games, he didn't give up a single home run. In fact, he only gave up 6 earned runs total at the end of the year. He's gonna run into some outings this year that are gonna inflate his ERA, and he's just not gonna be the last guy standing. Now we'll look at his brand new teammate coming over from the Texas Rangers. He's the savvy veteran Lance Lynn. He finished 6th in Cy Young voting last year, but he comes in at shorter odds this year at plus 1,700. Now, he's an absolute workhorse. He always gets her around 200 innings. Even last season in the shortened season, he pitched just above 80 innings, 81 innings. Was the most in the league. So it just goes to show, even in a shortened season, Lance Lynn's still getting the job done. Last year, his xFIP, however, was 4.34. So his ERA of 3.32 doesn't look so impressive when you look at that xFIP, even though his ERA was the lowest since 2015. Now, his career BABIP is .302. Last season, it was .242. That shows you he did get a bit lucky with some of those batted balls in the yard. And I think he's going to do really well in Chicago. I really do, and I think the White Sox team's going to go far. But I can't see him being the number one pitcher at the end of the year. In fact, he's not even going to be the number one pitcher on his team. Now, let's shift the focus from the savvy veterans who are going to be good but not great to the young arms that have a lot of hype, that do have the potential to be great this season, but it's just not a very good value play at this time. The first of those young arms being Jose Berrios of the Minnesota Twins, coming in at plus 1,700. He doesn't stand a chance. I'm constantly perplexed. I am perplexed at all the hype surrounding Jose Berrios every year. He's had enough of a track record by now that we know what he brings to the table. His ERA since 2017 has been 3.89, 3.84, 3.68, and last season it was 4.00. That's going the wrong way. He should be getting better, not getting worse. I know it was the shortened season. I know there's different variables, but he just hasn't delivered and he hasn't lived up to the potential. And it's not just like he's gotten unlucky. Those peripheral numbers back it up. He is a guy you want coming out second or third in a playoff rotation. And he does have great stuff. Over the course of a long season, career low whip is 1.14 back in 2018. To win the Cy Young, you gotta be 1 or lower essentially. Take Justin Verlander, for example, a Cy Young caliber pitcher. He's only had one season in his last 6 where his whip has been above 1.14. That just goes to show you Berrios doesn't have the control. He just doesn't have the stuff to win the Cy Young. Don't waste your money on Jose Berrios. Now we'll go to the guy with the worst value on the board in my opinion. He's the 4th favorite to win this. Is plus 950. His name is Tyler Glasnow. He is the lone ace on the Tampa Bay Rays squad since they said goodbye to Blake Snell, since they said goodbye to Charlie Morton. But he has a hell of a lot of heavy lifting to do. He's gonna have to have a beast season if he's gonna win the Cy Young. He's in the same division as the loaded New York Yankees and the up-and-coming Toronto Blue Jays. He has the strikeout stuff. He would have led the league in strikeout rate last season if he threw enough innings to qualify, but that's just it. He never really seems to throw enough innings to qualify. Durability is always a concern, and what also is a concern is his control. He led the league last year with 7 wild pitches, and that was in the shortened season. His walk rate is always really high. His stuff's electric, but his stuff just always raw talent. It's never actual production. Trevor Bauer is a good example of someone who had great stuff, who couldn't quite put it together until he did later in his career. Well, Tyler Glasnow is kind of the same way. He has the stuff. He doesn't have the numbers to back it up yet. Is this the season where it comes together? Well, at plus 950, I'm not going to be the one to put money in to find out. Now, along with a plethora of good young arms in the Houston Astros rotation is Framber Valdez. He does something that Tyler Glasnow's never done. He has received 1 Cy Young vote. That was for 5th place last year. He comes into this year at plus 2,500. Last year, he cut his home run and walk rate in half. He finished with a 3.57 ERA. But a 2.85 FIP that kind of suggests that ERA should have been a little bit lower. He struck out over a batter an inning, and last time we saw him, he allowed 1 earned run with 9 strikeouts in Game 6 of the ALCS. He also has to go up against the crappy Rangers and the even worse Mariners in the American League West. And the final young gun we're going to talk about is Jesus Lizardo of the Oakland Athletics, coming in at plus 2,500. I don't really care if Chris Bassett is on the mound for opening day for the Athletics. Jesus Lizardo for me is the best pitcher in the rotation, and he has the most potential moving forward. Now, he is the youngest in this entire list at 23 years old. He was a top prospect, and he may win the Cy Young in the future, but right now he's just a 3-pitch pitcher. I just don't really see him being there at the end of it. The Athletics will be a good team, and Lizardo probably will be the best pitcher on that team, and he will receive some lower place votes, but he's not going to be the top dog this year. Finally, and this may come as a surprise to some people, the last person that I'm eliminating and saying I don't think they're going to win the Cy Young this year is Lucas Giolito of the Chicago White Sox. He finished 7th last year, and he comes into this season as the 3rd shortest odds at plus 450. Simply put, his walk rate and his control, it's been too high the last couple of seasons. In his last 2 seasons as well, that's led to an ERA in the mid-3s. To win the Cy Young, you gotta be mid-2s or high 2s. So unless Lucas Giolito completely just goes an extra step. He's just a little bit short for me right now. His stuff is Cy Young caliber. He has the pedigree. He was a 16th overall pick back in 2012, and he's always been regarded as one of the top prospects in baseball. It took him a while to realize his potential, but now he finally has. He has a devastating fastball changeup combo. He's dominant against lefties and righties, home and away, but he just has a bit too many hiccups. For example, at the very first game of last year, he gave up 7 earned runs in 3.2 innings pitched to the Indians. He just seems to have those games a little too frequently to have the overall numbers at the end of the year. He'll have some games where he's nearing throwing a no-hitter, striking out 10 plus guys, but he'll also have the games where they're gonna impact the ratios just a little bit too much, and he's just gonna be on the outside looking in. Now, here's the top 4 pitchers who stand a chance of winning the AL Cy Young this year. I'm gonna put at number 4, Shenzhen Ryu of the Toronto Blue Jays. He's coming into this season at plus 1,300. He did it in the American League last year, finishing 3rd. He did it in the National League 2 years ago, coming in 2nd when he played for the Dodgers. Let's take that meltdown that he had in the playoffs against the Rays for the Jays, and we'll put it to one side. He was everything the Jays were hoping for when they signed him for $20 million a year last year. They were aggressive again this offseason, this time on the offensive side of the ball, signing Springer and Simeon. So Ryu's gonna take even more of a responsibility to bring the Jays to the playoffs, because A, the expectations are higher, and B, the playoff isn't expanded anymore. So they're gonna have to be a lot more efficient on the diamond if they are gonna get in. He only throws about 91 miles an hour, but he's a savvy veteran who can paint the corners. And that fastball changeup combo is really good when it's on. The changeup was great last year. The fastball wasn't. The fastball actually had a .560 slugging percentage against it, which is Pete Alonso's slugging percentage. So I'm sure in a longer season, that number would have normalized, but there's no way. It's hard to look at it. Was it bad that he had a fastball that was rocked so much? Or was it kind of impressive that he could have a fastball that got smoked and still finish with really good overall numbers at the end of the year? I'm gonna trust that Ryu can fix that fastball problem, and if he does, his numbers will improve across the board and he'll be in the mix. Now guys, the 3rd to last player I'm gonna talk about, by far the best value on the board. He's Jose Berrios' Minnesota Twin teammate, Kensei Maeda, at plus 2,000. I don't understand this evaluation at all. He finished 2nd in the American League Cy Young voting last year. It's just amazing value because he's a great pitcher on a great team who stays healthy, and he'll be there at the end. Depending on what you think about Berrios, clearly I don't rate him that highly. Maeda is by far the best Minnesota Twins pitcher. Last season he was 6-1. He struck out 8 guys for every 1 that he walked. The difference in his strikeout rate and his walk rate was 28.2%. That's right with Verlander when he won the Cy Young in 2019, right with Kluber when he won in 2017, and it was much better than Blake Snell's when he won in 2018. So 2 seasons ago, he was absolutely dominant with the slider and changeup, so he just thought last year, hey, that worked really well for me 2 years ago. Let me keep throwing that more and more and more. And what that did is that made his fastball play up a lot better. He went from having a mediocre fastball to last year, he relegated it to his 3rd most used pitch, and it only had a 0.86 batting average against. He induced a ton of soft contact. He finished with a 0.75 whip. Now that's Cy Young caliber stuff. And finally, we'll get into the 2 top dogs and the 2 most favored pitchers for a reason. It's Shane Bieber coming in at number 2 for me. He was the unanimous winner of the Cy Young last year in the shortened season, and rightly so. And this year he's coming in as the 2nd most likely to win. I mean, we talk about elite for pitchers. He had a 1.63 ERA that all the peripherals backed up as well. And his K percentage was 41.1%, which was insane. To put that into perspective, Lucas Giolito was number 2 in the AL, and he only had a 33.7% K percentage. His walk rate was 13th in the league, and his .267 BABIP will increase a little bit. His 91.1% strand rate will decrease a little bit, and the Indians will probably be a little bit worse overall. He has one of the most untouchable curveballs in the game. Cole and Bieber are clearly a 1-2 combo, and coming in at number 1, it's Garrett Cole of the New York Yankees. He proved why he signed that big fat contract by the Bronx Bombers, and he was just great last year, simply put. He only finished 4th in the Cy Young voting, but that's partly because he did have two kind of bad starts against the Braves and the Rays back-to-back where he gave up 9 earned runs. In the other 10 games combined, he only gave up 14 earned runs, and that's the Garrett Cole we know. That's the Garrett Cole we're gonna see in a 2021 team where the Yankees are favored to make it back to the World Series. And don't get me wrong, both Cole and Bieber are gonna be great, and I know overall wins and losses are mattering less and less to the people voting for the Cy Young Award. At the end of the day, Garrett Cole is gonna have all the better team records than Shane Bieber, which might kind of tip the edge to him in his favor, and there's simply a reason why he's the favorite coming into this year. So guys, just to summarize, Garrett Cole's the deserved number 1, Shane Bieber's the deserved close number 2, and by far the best value on the board is Kensei Maeda at plus 2,000. I have been Ben Holmes. This has been the Casual Fan Podcast. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button. We'll see you next week when we look at the NL Cy Young race.